The monsoon had just arrived in village Sundarpur, and the earth smelled of wet soil and all smoke. The fields looked greener than they had in years, and yet inside old Ramel's heart there was a dryness. He did not understand. His son Vikram had left for the city 3 years earlier with promises of returning after earning enough money to repair their broken house. At first, letters came every month, filled with stories of crowded buses and tall buildings and night shift work. Then letters became shorter, then rare silence. Ramel never begged him to come back. He only said work hard and stay honest. But at evening, when the cows returned and the temple bell rang, he would sit on the sharp high and look at the dusty road that led to the highway. He wondered if the city road looked back at him too. The villagers spoke of their children with pride. Some built shops, some bought tractors, some visited during festivals with gift boxes and new clothes. Ramel smiled and nodded, but inside he protected a small fragile hope. He wanted not sweets, nor clothes, only the familiar footstep of his son in the courtyard. His wife Kamla swept the yard daily and kept Vikram's room clean as if someone might arrive any moment. The wooden trunk still held his school books and a cracked cricket bat. One day as Ramel worked in the fields, the sky turned gray and he felt sudden dizziness. He sat under the peepal tree breathing heavily. A young boy from the village helped him home. That night Kamla silently placed an extra thali at dinner as if Vikram might suddenly walk in and laugh at their worry. But the wind blew and the door remained still. Days later a postman arrived with a registered letter. It was not from Vikram, but from a company informing that he had lost his job due to cut-downs and was looking for new work. There was no address, just a brief note saying he is fine. Ramel read that line again and again. Fine could mean anything. Fine could mean lonely. Fine could mean hungry. Fine could mean proud enough not to return. That night the lantern burned longer than usual. Ramel stepped outside and looked at the moon. He had always believed strength meant silence, but in the cool darkness he whispered, "Come home, Beta. No matter what you bring or lose, this house will not measure you." In the distance a dog barked and a train horn echoed across the fields. Somewhere beyond those sounds was the city, and somewhere in that city was his son, who still carried the memory of muddy feet and monsoon rain. Though Ramel did not know when the meeting would happen, he decided to sow the seeds for the winter crop with steady hands. Hope, after all, was also a kind of seed. It required patience, faith, and the courage of waiting, even if the harvest came years later. Winter settled slowly over Sundarpur like a silent blanket. The mornings arrived wrapped in fog, and the sun appeared late, pale and distant. Ramel had grown quieter after the letter. He did not speak much about Vikram, but every small sound near the gate made his head turn. Kamla noticed this and began lighting an oil lamp near the doorway every evening before sunset. She never explained why. She simply said light should never wait for darkness. The village prepared for Makar Sankranti. Children flew kites from rooftops and shouted with joy when one string cut another. Women roasted sesame seeds, and jaggery filled the air with sweetness. Ramel watched the sky crowded with colorful kites and remembered how Vikram once insisted on the brightest red one. He had cried when it tore against a neem branch. That memory made him smile for the first time in weeks. One afternoon a stranger arrived asking for Ramel's house. He carried a small cloth bag and wore city shoes now covered in dust. Inside the bag were a few clothes and an old phone with a cracked screen. He said he had worked with Vikram in the same factory. When the company closed, many workers scattered. Vikram had left saying he would try in another city. He had no stable place to stay. The stranger handed over a folded paper. It was Vikram's handwriting. "Bauji, do not worry about me. I will return only when I can stand without shame." Ramel read the line slowly. Shame. The word hurt more than job loss. That evening he walked alone to the edge of the fields, where the mustard flowers had begun to bloom yellow against the fading sun. He understood something clearly then. It was not poverty his son feared. It was disappointment. The next day Ramal did something unexpected. He went to the village school and asked the teacher to help him write a letter. His hands trembled as he dictated each word carefully. Beta, this house was built from mud and effort, not from pride. If you return with empty pockets, they will still be full of our blessings. Come before the seasons change again. He sealed the envelope, though he did not know exactly where to send it. The stranger had given him a rough address of a labor colony in another town. It might reach, it might not. Weeks passed. The fog began to thin. One evening, as Camel lit the lamp near the doorway, footsteps approached through the mist. Not hurried, not confident, just tired. Ramal stood still, afraid to believe too soon. A shadow stopped at the gate, and in that quiet moment between doubt and recognition, a familiar voice whispered softly, "Bauji." For a few seconds Ramal could not move. The fog seemed to freeze around him, and even the village dogs stopped barking. The figure at the gate stepped forward into the faint glow of the oil lamp. Vikram looked thinner, his shoulders slightly bent, his face darker from sun and struggle, but his eyes were the same restless eyes that once chased kites across the terrace. Kamla's hands trembled as she lifted the lamp higher. She did not ask questions. She did not complain about the long silence. She simply touched his face as if confirming he was not another winter dream. Vikram bent down and touched his parents' feet. When he rose, his voice broke. "I could not come back empty-handed." Ramal placed his rough palm on his son's head. "Empty hands are still hands," he said quietly. "They can build again." Inside the house, everything felt smaller yet warmer. The old wooden cot creaked as Vikram sat down. Kamla brought hot rotis, fresh butter, and onion chutney. Vikram ate slowly at first, then with the hunger of someone who had forgotten what home tasted like. Between bites he spoke of long factory shifts, crowded rooms shared with strangers, nights of doubt, and mornings when he almost boarded a bus back but stopped himself out of pride. "I thought if I failed, I would become a burden," he admitted. Ramal listened carefully. "Beta, burden is the one who refuses to try. You tried. That is enough." Outside, the fog began to lift, as if the village itself wanted to see the reunion clearly. A few neighbors noticed light and voices, and soon word spread quietly that Vikram had returned. Some smiled knowingly, some felt relief for the old couple. No one mocked. In villages, pain is understood without announcement.